The snow-capped Grampian Mountains and the paradoxically low, freezing waters of the River Tay at Grantley in Perthshire seem a million miles away from the Ocoee River in Tennessee, where the Olympic medals will be decided in a little under 4 months' time. Canoe slalom returned to the Olympics in Barcelona in 1992 after a 20-year break. Then it was held on an artificial man-made course in the Pyrenees. In Atlanta, the Ocoee will provide a natural river course, which is why Olympic selection this time is being held on this famous and picturesque salmon fishing river. Most untypically though, because of the below average winter rainfall, the water level is much lower than it would be normally.
Unusually for March in Scotland, we've got a low river, and we're going to have to try hard to make the test appropriate, but we'll do all right. No wind.
What effect will that have?
The margins will be much closer. We want, in selection, we're trying to put a test that will really separate out the best for Olympic level, and the margins are just very, very close, and therefore people will be on the edge of the chairs.
There are 4 classes: men's and women's kayak, men's Canadian singles or C1, and Canadian doubles or C2. They all race the same course, passing downstream through the green gates and upstream through the red ones. And the aim is to be fast and clean. There's a 5-second penalty if any part of the paddler or their equipment touches a gate. This weekend, they have 2 runs over the same course today, with the best only to count, and points are then awarded according to where they finish. Tomorrow, they have another 2 runs over a different course, again the best only to count. The 2 days' scores are then added together to decide the final places. Because of the limited numbers at the Olympics, each nation is only allowed a maximum of 2 boats in each class. Competition in the men's and women's kayaks particularly is intense. There's no latitude or discretion. You finish in the top 2 here, or you don't go to Atlanta.
It's that factor more than anything that makes this such a difficult race. Normally it's selection, they know that there's 4 boats are going to be put in the team, which broadens out the range of what they need to do. Here they know it's the top 2, and it's going to be very hard. There are going to be some very good paddlers who aren't going to be in that top 2, and I think that's what makes it difficult. They know that they can perform as well as they can be a world-class athlete, and they're still not going to be in that top 2.
Going to see some tears over the weekend?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, hopefully no tears from Lynn Simpson, who, despite being the reigning World Cup champion and world champion, still has to face the pressures of this first-past-the-post selection.
I think that this is what makes our nation, what makes me as a paddler very good. You know, it puts me under pressure. It keeps me under pressure, you know. In March, I have to deal with pressure in March, so I have to practice pressure all winter. And then when I get to the Olympics, go, it's a breeze. No.
In the men's kayak, 4 stand out. Paul Ratcliffe is ranked highest, having come 5th in last year's World Championships. Sean Pearce was world champion in 1991, but failed to qualify for the Barcelona Olympics in these races 4 years ago.
I don't want to go through it again. I know that. Probably took me 4 or 5 months to recover from that, and it was, you know, it was hell.
Like Pearce, the brothers Ian and Andrew Raspin come from Teesside, and there's terrific competition between them. Ian is the only one in the group with Olympic experience. The first run of the women's kayak went according to form, with Lynn Simpson the quickest, ahead of Rachel Crosby. But Crosby improved by nearly 6 seconds on her second run to end the first day ahead of Simpson, who collected a 5-second penalty on her second run.
It's good to win any race, but when it's the trials for the Olympics, then it makes it all the more of a cushion, and it means quite a lot, yeah. But we've still got tomorrow to go, and just keeping focused for that, really.
And a really storming second run.
Yeah, it was okay. I mean, there were still things that I would like to have worked on, you know. My time, I think Lynn did a faster time in the second run, but picked up a penalty, and you know, that time was definitely there. But yeah, it was good enough, and I was pleased with it, yeah.
I knew that the first run was good enough pretty much to put me in the top 2, and yeah, you have to push it a bit and see where your limits lie on the second run, and I almost got away with it, you know. It's like everything, you know, you try really hard, and the move where I got the 5, I was probably just a little bit too fast for myself, so you know, I can live with that.
In the men's kayak, Paul Ratcliffe had the quickest time of the day on his second run, ahead of Ian Raspin and Sean Pearce. But the pressure's on Andy Raspin, who's only fifth after hitting gates on both his runs.
I made a couple of mistakes which were unfortunate and dropped me down into that position, which I was hoping for better than that.
Yeah, you made one mistake on the first run, or at least one penalty. And,
I was at the downstream gate 19. I was too tight on coming out of it, and I just got it across my buoyancy aid, which a little one, but still 5 seconds.
So you knew at that point that you had to put in a pretty good second run.
Yeah, with the time that I'd got, I felt if I went clear, then I would be in the top 3, I would have thought. But again, on my second run, I got penalties, so that didn't happen.
Ian, end of the first day, and at the moment, you've got a spot in the Olympics. Quite exciting?
Yeah, obviously it is exciting, but you can't count your chickens before they've hatched. Anything can happen tomorrow. You saw the race today, how it changes through the runs, and tomorrow things can switch around so much. So there's no point in... I think a big mistake is to either get too excited about it or get too depressed about it at this stage if you haven't performed well. And I think it's better just to sort of focus on what's actually happening, and then on Sunday night then we can start to maybe celebrate.
Sean, end of the first day lying in third place. Are you happy with that?
Not really. I would have liked to have been first or second, but I'm in striking distance, in third. Ideally, if you want to make the team with seconds and thirds, then 6 or 7 boats have got to be doing really well, and only 3 boats done well today. So I think I've got to win tomorrow and hope the others make mistakes.
Such are the tensions of this weekend that Paul Ratcliffe prefers to keep his own counsel until after tomorrow's deciding race. At the end of day 1 then, there's still everything to play for. Sunday morning, and a sun-soaked River Tay awaits the paddlers, who watch carefully as forerunners test the new course. Unlike yesterday, there's no practice run today, just 2 chances to realise the dreams and ambitions of an Olympic place. Lynn Simpson and Rachel Crosby knew that they should qualify, but the relief is evident after both put in fast and clean first runs, enough to guarantee their Olympic places.
I never took that for granted. I thought, well, somebody could have the run of their life, and so I better put an effort in on the second run. And for me to have a good second run, it was important as well. So, and I did. So I'm smiling all the way to the Olympics now.
Rachel, congratulations. You had the luxury really today of knowing after your first run that you were home and dry pretty much, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. It was good to get a good first run in, actually. That's needed to do that today. It was a good race yesterday, and I was still nervous. I still had it all to do, and I was relieved.
The men's kayak is a much more tense affair. Paul Ratcliffe, the overnight leader, is quickest on the first run, but Ian Raspin collects a 5-second penalty and is only 7th, with Sean Pearce and Andy Raspin 2nd and 3rd respectively. It's all down to the final run. The pressures on Pearce and the Raspins are intense. Andy Raspin was first to go. With mixed emotions, his chances of an Olympic place had all but gone, but he needed a top 4 place to make the World Cup team. He needed to beat his brother, but in doing so, he could ruin Ian's chances of Olympic selection. It was another good run, but Sean Pearce was to better it, to stay in the hunt for a top 2 finish. He's renowned for his ability to fight through the lactic acid as the muscles tire at the end of an arduous course, and he paddled the difficult gates at the end well. And so it was all down to Ian Raspin. His first run was no good. He had to have a clean second run. Just 1 gate hit would drop him out of the automatic Olympic places. And gate 16 proved his undoing. A 5-second penalty, and there was no way he could improve on his 7th place. After months of hard graft and preparation, Ian Raspin's Olympic dreams are in tatters. Meanwhile, Paul Ratcliffe had another excellent run to go fractionally quicker than Pearce, confirming him as the number 1, with Pearce, the man who missed out 4 years ago, in 2nd place.
Felt pretty good all weekend. I've been kept calm, kept focused, and felt confident from the start. Didn't get nervous really, but credit to all the other pilots. It's been a tough race and had to do it second runs both days. But really enjoyed it in the end. It turned out good.
Sean Pearce, you weren't very happy after yesterday. You can smile greatly now.
I know, what a relief. I'm glad it's all over, and I'm glad that only happens once every 4 years, I can tell you. There was immense pressure on this weekend.
Ian and Andy Raspin tied for third, with Ian taking it on a countback system. He could yet go to Atlanta if a third spot becomes available, should other nations not all fill their quotas.
Until this section here, my time was right in there, and then I just made that error. You're talking sort of a few centimetres and 5-second penalty. That's it, it's all over. It's all over.
The two of you came into the weekend, along with Paul Ratcliffe and Sean Pearce, as any two of four could make it. You, unhappily for you, are the two that didn't. Are you deeply disappointed?
No, as you say, it could have been anyone's, and we appreciate that before we come into the race. So you can only concentrate on your own race and do the best you can. And if things run with you, then you'll be on top. And if they don't, then you might not be in that bunch.
In the Canadian classes, final qualifying takes place on the Ocoee River in a couple of weeks' time. At the moment, Britain hasn't qualified a boat at all in the C2, but the new partnership of Stuart Pitt and Craig Brown are going well, and they have a good chance of making it to Atlanta. In C1, we have one boat qualified with the chance of a second. But although Gareth Marriott, Olympic silver medalist 4 years ago, earned that boat place, he's still got to win his spot in the team. By coming second here behind his main rival Mark Delaney, he's safely in the four that go to the Ocoee in mid-April to decide which two will represent Britain in July. Alan, at the beginning of the weekend, you were reluctant to name names. Now you know who's going. Are you happy with the team you've got?
I think we've identified in the team the boats who can produce the goods. And I really feel that with Paul and Sean, Lynn, Rachel and Gareth, we can push for the medals that really they deserve.